Hi and welcome to St Mary's Youth Online. My name is Lisa and we are in the middle of a series called Encounters with Jesus, and this week Nat is going to speak to us about the encounter Jesus had with a blind man. So to hear the passage, Alwyn is going to read to us.
John chapter 9 verses 1 to 12. As Jesus was walking along, he saw a man who had been born blind. His disciples asked, "Teacher, whose sin caused him to be born blind? Was it his own sin or his parents' sin?" Jesus answered, "His blindness has nothing to do with his sins or his parents' sins. He is born blind so that God's power might be seen at work in him. As long as it is day, we must keep on doing the work of him who has sent me. Night is coming when no one can work. While I'm in the world, I'm the light of the world." After he said this, Jesus spat on the ground and made mud from the spittle. He rubbed the mud on the man's eyes and said, "Go and wash your face in the pool of Siloam." So the man went, washed his face, and came back seeing. His neighbours and the people who had seen him begging before asked, "Isn't this the man who used to sit there and beg?" Some said, "He is the one," but others said, "No, he isn't. He just looked like him." So the man himself said, "I am the man." "How is it you can see?" they asked him. He answered, "The man called Jesus made some mud, rubbed it in my eyes, and told me to go to Siloam and wash my face. So I went, and as soon as I washed, I could see." "Where is he now?" they asked. "I don't know," he answered.
Hi everyone, it's Nat here for today's Encounter with Jesus devotional. And today we're looking at when Jesus heals a man who's blind from birth. I'm going to talk about what I get from this passage and some of the key points, and I'd love for you to have a bit of a think and reflect on it too. So I'm just going to jump straight in. This passage follows on from Jesus being faced by people picking up stones to stone him. It's clearly a time of rising tension around Jesus. But as ever, Jesus is just super calm. And it says actually that he went along, which sounds really, really relaxed to me. Straight away in this story, we see the disciples doing something that was quite typical of the time. They saw someone who's down on their luck, in this case a blind beggar, and they immediately asked whether it was his fault or his parents' fault that the man was in this situation. Apparently it was common at the time to think that suffering was a punishment for some sort of sin. What they don't do, though, is they don't ask how they can help, or they don't really seem to show much care for the man, which is, Sure, they want to understand why he's in that situation, but it's not a very kind response. Jesus, on the other hand, acts just as we might expect Jesus to act, with kindness and love, immediately starting work on healing the man, instead of worrying about passing any sort of judgment on him or his family. I know in this situation, I would probably be like the disciples, and I've been here before. For example, when I pass people who are homeless on the street, asking for money and things like that, a part of my brain thinks, what have they done to end up there, just like the disciples in that respect? Jesus absolutely doesn't do that. Instead of an opportunity for judgment, this is an opportunity for demonstrating God's incredible healing power. He takes the hurting, the pain, the broken, and he redeems it. And that's exactly what happens in this story here. And I think there's a really obvious thing that's going on now. I think this applies to. Obviously, it's the lockdown, the virus, and everything. I think it's fair to say that none of us know why this is happening or what's going to come from it. But when we are in tough times, it's a chance for us to fully lean on God and let him work in amazing ways. I think it's interesting that the word pray comes ultimately from the Latin word from which we also get precarious or uncertain. And I think that makes complete sense. When things are bad, that we return to God. But it should also be the case that we turn to God when we see other people having a tough time. And in this passage, we see Jesus does just that. Jesus says that as long as it is day, we must do the works of him who sent me. Jesus knows that this situation, and ones like it, are an opportunity for God to work miracles. I know this kind of thing is definitely something that I struggle with, but I think I'm getting better. One of the things that has helped me when I don't know how to do anything about a hard situation is to just simply thank God for all the things that he does and who he is. I found myself doing this a lot during lockdown because I don't really know what else to do, to be honest. I don't know what to ask God for. I don't know what's going on with anything. So I just thank God that he does great things, he makes things better, and that he's promised that he will do that again and again. So going back to the passage, what does Jesus do to make this blind man's situation better? Well, he gets weird like only Jesus can. He spits on the dirt and rubs the mud and spit mix on the man's eyes. For me, I think this is one of the weirdest bits of the Bible. It's weirder than Jesus walking on water, or the feeding the 5,000. It's weird, I think, anyway. Jesus, who is almighty and perfect and could do anything, goes for some dirt and spit. It's nothing fancy, and it's nothing normal to us, but it's right. And this is why I love this passage, because I think it shows us so much about God. God is weird, to us at least. God does not do what we expect. God doesn't answer our prayers how we think he will. When God does get involved, it's often in ways that we ourselves don't want to be involved in, or that we don't expect. I think if Jesus wanted to rub his muddy spit on my face, I think I'd have probably said no thank you. It would have been too weird for me. But this man in this story shows incredible trust and faith and goes against normal behaviour, and he gets involved and he lets Jesus rub that mud and spit on his eyes. And this is what we should do. This is what we should do. God is weird to us sometimes. That's okay. Because God is always good. He's always for us, and he is perfect love. So getting a bit weird with God is not a bad thing, even if it feels strange. So, after Jesus rubs the mud and spit on this guy's face, he tells the man to go and wash in a pool nearby. Once again, showing great obedience, the man just does as Jesus commands. We don't get any sense from this story that he protested or doubted. He just let himself get rubbed with some mud and spit and then go straight to the pool. But when people who know him see that he is transformed and his sight has been restored after he comes out of the pool, they aren't having it. They're full of doubt. They refuse to accept that this is the same person, and they say that it's just someone who looks like him. And I find this bit, I don't like this bit of the passage, this bit of this story. I think it hits some truths for me that I'd rather not think about. There are times when people declare a miracle of God, and my immediate response is, yeah, wow, probably wasn't God. It was something else, wasn't it? And I don't think I'm alone in trying to think of a possible scientific explanation or some other strange coincidence that it could have been, but in fact, what I'm seeing is God's work staring me right in the face. I've said it before, I'll say it again. God is weird. God doesn't stick around for the praise after he works. So when we share stories of what God has done for us, it can be easy to doubt. So about 5 or 6 years ago, I had a really bad cycling accident, which meant I had to get airlifted to hospital, which was quite worrying. Fortunately, everything was okay. But since then, I'd had pretty terrible, pretty constant back pain all on the right-hand side of my back. I couldn't sit down for a long time. It'd be really uncomfortable to do that. I would struggle to sleep because it was so sore, and I'd just be in discomfort all the time. And it was really, really frustrating. I'd often get in like a bit of a strop about it, which was fun to be around. Anyway, on a spur of the moment thing, I asked for healing for God when I was receiving prayer ministry about 6 months ago, and my back pain went like immediately, and it was really, really weird. And I would text my girlfriend every day after that and say, my back's still fine, because I was so pleased. It was such an annoying thing. It was such like a nagging thing in my life that had gone. I was so happy that it had gone. But I'd also say things about it like, well, if it is healed by God, see, even though I'd asked God for healing, I couldn't trust that God had done it, even when he had, even when that was the clear explanation of what had happened. And the people towards the end of this passage that we've just read are just like me. They're just like this. They are shown a miracle of God and immediately doubt it. And if we read on in John chapter 9, we see that the Pharisees, the religious leaders of the time, are interrogating the man who was blind, who then Jesus healed. And they get really, really angry at him, and they accuse him of lying, and they're really intense and really not very pleasant to him at all. And I think it'd be understandable to kind of just cave into their interrogation. But the man doesn't do that. If we read on, the man doesn't cave in, doesn't do anything other than hold up the truth of God's work. Even though, in my opinion anyway, he can't be 100% certain who Jesus really is, he declares that this miracle, him being healed, is a work of God. He won't change his mind in this. He's seen clearly the power of God, and no pressure from the Pharisees will stop him from declaring God's truth. It's pretty impressive to me. I think it's incredible. And it shows how God changing one life can be used to spread God's truth further. That man has been used powerfully by God now. If we look back to the start of this passage, the man is blind. He's being judged by the disciples. And at the end, or just after the end, he's not only healed, he's used powerfully by God to spread God's truth further to those in power and those who doubt him, and those who doubt Jesus, rather. I think this just goes to show that God can lead us in strange ways towards people we might not expect. But if you feel led by God to help someone, the impact God can have on them can be bigger than we could first realise. So, what do you do when you see yourself in a bad situation? Or someone else in a bad situation? I'd like to challenge you a little bit, not to jump straight to judging, assuming that they failed somehow, but to think, how can God make the situation good? Pray about it. Be led by God, even if it's strange, because ultimately God makes all things good. The more we trust and are led by God, the more good he does in our lives and the lives of those around us. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Nat. I think it would be great to take some time to think about the things that Nat suggested, how we respond to people who are in need or suffering. I actually heard a story within the last couple of weeks of someone in St Mary's Church who prayed for a friend of theirs who had a really painful sore knee and they were unable to exercise. And they prayed for them, I think it was over Zoom or FaceTime or something, so probably pretty weird, pretty awkward. They prayed for them and their knee was completely healed. They are completely pain-free. And now they're asking questions about who Jesus is and who God is and about faith. What is our response to people who are suffering? Do you know someone who is suffering right now, either physically or in some other way? Perhaps even someone in your household. Could you offer to pray for them? I recognise it feels like a risk. It does take some courage, but why don't you try putting yourself out there and see what God does? I think it would be so exciting right now to hear more stories of God encountering people, of God healing people where they need it. Give it a go. Let me know how you get on. And I hope you all have a great week. Take care of yourselves.